High-rise and hotel window washers of Reddit. What's the weirdest thing you've spotted when descending to a room? I played with an orange kitty through a window once. That was nice. I also kicked through someone's screen because the window was open. Surprisingly no naked people so far. Worked with some guys that have kicked through actual windows. Old thin double plane. I have almost ripped a window out of its frame with my suction cup. The caulking was all worn away and the frame was broken. That was scary. I worked on swing stages doing concrete finishing and I once saw a grown man jumping on his bed in his tighty whities. I wasn't even shocked. He just looked like he was having so much fun. This is the purest thing on this entire thread. I love it. Not so much a window washer but window replacer. Woman, mid-20s, daughter of the homeowner, walked into the room like she had 1,000 times before. Took her clothes off faster than I could say excuse me ma'am. Allow me to avert my gaze, but when I did get words out she screamed and ran out of the room. A little while later her mother came out and asked if that meant they'd get a discount. So she tried to pimp her daughter out. I was at the gyno for my annual visit waiting for the doctor to come in. I'm sitting in the chair, feet in the stirrups facing the window when I start to see the ropes of them coming up to next floor. I have never been frozen in fear like that in my life, haha. Luckily the receptionist ran in at the last second and closed the blinds before they totally came up. Phew. Finally a question I can answer. We were cleaning a fairly tall building, 12 stories if I recall correctly, adjacent to an equally tall government office building. This office building had several bedrooms on the top level, which we could see from the roof but certainly not from the ground. From where we were standing this bedroom was about 10 meters away. As we're setting up, a naked dude jumps onto his bed with an iPad and starts masturbating furiously, facing us. Not weird necessarily but certainly unpleasant. Not a window washer but building restoration. It took us about a week to finish a drop of 15 floors, so for a full week, as our lift went up every morning we were treated to a pretty dang attractive woman in her late 40s standing stark naked in front of her sliding glass door, drinking a cup. She always smiled and waved and never seemed the least bit embarrassed. I do high-rise window cleaning in Vancouver. Nothing exciting. Mostly do residential buildings. Most people are at work. Normally it's just cats or old Asian women saying you didn't clean their window well enough. If you do come across somebody naked you just tend to ignore it and clean the window and move on. Each section takes less than a minute and most of the time you can only see your own reflection until you clean the window. I have a co-worker who did window cleaning in Australia for a long time and she had seen some wild stuff. More partying and drinking and drugs over there in the daytime. I'd like to think the cats were criticizing your work as well as the old ladies. Ugh. I was taking a dump when window washers lowered themselves to my level. I could hear them talking about and laughing at the situation. Funny you say that. A cleaner above you says they saw someone crapping on the bed. Not a repelling story, but one time we were washing the interior of a house and the woman who was home was very nice. About halfway through, the person who would seem to be the husband comes home and they kiss a bunch. Nothing crazy, but they kept talking in very hushed tones. Which is not that weird considering there are strangers in your living room, moving stuff and cleaning and whatever. They just kept whispering though as we moved into the bedrooms, which started getting weird. Well, we get to he master bedroom and start moving family pictures off a dresser to clean he window behind it, and I can assure you that our visitor was not the husband or the father to their 2 blonde children. Got a very icky feeling and finished the house quickly. Needless to say she left us a very generous tip. Dang, that takes a load of commitment to the job. I had descended down to about the 20th floor of a 35-story building. The blinds were closed. Mostly, I was doing post-construction cleaning, scraping glue, caulking, cement and other unpleasantness from the windows and frames, so I spent quite a bit more time on each window than when purely washing. I get to the bottom section of one of the larger windows to find this small opening in the blinds. Behind them is a rather shapely woman naked, with her back turned to me. I pull out my scraper to take some more stubborn bits off the window and end up making some noise which startles the lass. When she turns I can see her laptop facing us, webcam on. There is a steady stream of chat flowing on the right hand side. It was then I knew I'd come across a cam girl. She came over to the window. I thought she'd be mad, but instead she opened the blinds and played with herself. Just then, the suction cup I was using for stability against the building released, causing me to nearly soil myself. Not bad for 2 weeks into the job. I freaking hate when the suction cup releases. Not a window washer, but this is related. Used to work at Caravan of Dreams in downtown Fort Worth. It had a rooftop bar with a very nice view of the Worthington Hotel. At night people would turn off their lights and have sex while looking out their window. They thought no one could see them. They were completely wrong. One waitress was so confused at what she saw, but just couldn't stop looking and commenting at the couple, standing hands on the window doggy style. It was hilarious. They totally knew someone could see them. Source: have had sex on rooftops, in hotels with open windows. Not a window washer, but I am high-rise resident who owns a dog. Window washing day is the day that my dog is convinced the world is going to end. The one that keeps him staring out the window the other 364 days a year, searching for attackers. Dog, today is the day, the fateful day again. The rope men are coming and they are going to take our peaceful ways of life away. I must protect my master. Look man, if we can get an attempted murderer to do an AMA and people are sharing their freaked up family stories, we can get this. I'm hoping for like the one window washer on Reddit to come in here like, oh, man. I was once sitting in a classroom at the pharma company I worked for at the time watching some training videos. The video in question just happened to involve some bloke on all fours having a metal tube stuck up his ass while the good doctor in the video was explaining what he could see. I was doing a lot of bowel drugs at the time. Heard a noise behind me to see and looked round to see a couple, not one but two, wide-eyed window cleaners wondering WTF was I watching. High-rise window cleaner here. The most bizarre thing I saw had to be a taxidermy alligator with bird wings sprouting out of its back, chained to the ceiling. Also, a wooden penis in the windowsill that I could only guess was an art piece of some sort. Please tell me you saw both of these in the same room. Another story from the other side of the window. I was in a behavioral psych unit when I was in high school. 5th floor of a regular OLA hospital. Let me tell you, it gets boring AF. So one day when we saw the ropes come down, I waited by the window until the guy got to our floor and started barking my butt off. A couple of the other patients joined me. It was fun for a while. I doubt it made much of an impression, but it was an event at the time. No punishment though. I had good rapport with the staff. I feel like you have even more interesting stories than this. Window cleaner based in Fort Worth, and I once had someone open the window and offer me coffee while in midair. It was quite refreshing. I had a lady give me a Ziploc bag with 2 beers on ice on the last rappel of a hot summer day. Tossed them in my bucket and shared it with a coworker after. Well, I'm not a window washer, but I've been on the receiving end of this before. Went to visit my parents who happened to be getting some gutter and roofing work done at the time. They forgot to mention this, and I went out late the first night and got S-faced. Woke up the next day hungover as frick and stumbled my way into the bathroom for my morning crap. And as I'm sitting there, butt naked, moaning with my face in my hands from the headache, crapping my brains out, I hear a tapping on the window. Look up, and in the window in front of the toilet there's some dude in his 40s with the most uncomfortable look in his eyes I've ever seen. Something tells me he wasn't planning on watching a hairy, 250 pounds, 6 feet 2 inches ginger take a crap when he woke up that morning. Well sure, nobody plans on that until the weekend. I only ask because I was in a hotel room, sitting naked at my laptop, working. Thank you. And this lad just drops down into mutual view, notices me. I know he freaking had to, played it off like nothing, washed the window and then continued on his merry way. It felt like the reaction of a man that has clearly seen much worse. I work in a hotel and I have seen so much BDSM stuff right here. A naked man wouldn't be a big deal. I work for my dad during the summer for his window washing company. Check my post history. And one day I'm working in an office at like 8 PM at night. We were doing interior cleaning, and as usual everyone is mostly gone but some late workers. Well, that night we just arrived on a new floor, and as we turn the corner to start, my dad and I walk in on 2 guys full on making out. Definitely not expected, but we all laughed it off. This was an admin building for a bank in Montreal BTW. Upvote for actual answer. My girlfriend and I were fricking, and above the head of our bed was a small window. I look up and see someone looking in. He notices that I saw him, quickly squeegees the window, then disappears down his ladder. And this is when you realize you are at home in your 2-story house at which you don't pay window cleaners. Few years back at the age of 17 I took a full 3-day safety training and did this as a part-time to get quick cash. This was in Chicago at the Holiday Inn. Me and my partner, 25-ish. At the time we're almost done with our shift as it become close to dark. As we get to this one room, it was oddly brighter than usually rooms. When we reach it, we find a group of people in animal costumes rubbing and smacking each other. Me and my partner were like WTF. The room was full of glitter on the floors and had a bunch of rainbow type crap sprayed on the walls. We wanted to finish quick. As we started descending they caught us and gave us what looked like sharp looks, but we couldn't tell because of the wolf heads and animal heads and bodies they had on. We booked it and told the front desk what was up. After they checked it out they got back to us and told us they kicked them out and damages the room. So it was out of service last time I checked. You saw furries in their natural habitat. It took the National Park Services years to drive them into urban environments. Thanks to a steady supply of Wi-Fi and hentai they have made a thriving comeback. I wasn't washing windows but I was on my first trip to New York when I was 15 or so. We had a hotel room pretty high up and at night it was so interesting how you could see into so many other windows in the buildings next door. I had a good view of 3 different buildings. 2 looked like apartments and the other was an office building. I saw some guy at a desk, some people in their apartments just on the couch or computer, all except for one guy who kept walking in and out of a room, turning the lights on and off each time, which is how I noticed. Eventually he returned to the room and cast the light on. This time he was naked and he flipped on the TV and started watching P. I had enough at that point. Dang, it was just getting interesting. Noting 2 strange but a 3rd floor pole dancing class. Got to do 2 passes on their windows. The other was a guy smoking a bong by the window. Think me dropping in blew his mind a bit because he looked pretty shocked. Around 7-8 years ago I was working on building restoration as a contractor. We worked for about a week from the afternoon till late. During work I noticed that in one of the buildings next to us we could see inside a room on the 12th floor. Strange thing is, in that room the lights were on every day, like even when we started work. Even more weird, the TV was playing some pop music video clip over and over on repeat and we never seen anybody moving in the room. And it was presumably the living room with the entrance door opening from it. This kept going on for a week, and we were all wondering what happened. One of my co-workers said that probably some poor bastard odd somewhere in the flat. On the last day of work I went to the building to see if there's a doorman receptionist on the ground floor who I can notify about this. Went in, told him that he'd better check that room on the 12th floor and described the odd situation to him. He looked at me weird and said that if the room I'm talking about is the one he thinks of then that room is unoccupied and unfurnished as the last tenant moved out months ago. He assured me that at night he'll go up and check. The project we worked on finished and I went on my merry way. Our boss went back a few months later to correct some issues, and then he called me saying that the room we were on about is empty, unfurnished with the lights off and has a for sale sign in the window. I found this pretty creepy and we never found out what happened. Late to the thread, didn't actually see it but I used to work with the glazing company that had a contract to clean and replace windows on what was the 4th tallest tower in Calgary at the time, Cantera Tower. The top floor had a 2-story office in it that we had to use the stairs in to reach the roof since the elevator did not go all the way to the last floor. One day, my boss asked me to note the ages of the windows, as all commercial grade double glazing has the year of manufacturing in it. One was 4 years newer than the rest and he told me what happened. Buddy had his last bad day, threw his chair at the window and followed it out. At ground level, you could see where the paving stones had a puddle after the rain even though a drain was only a meter or so away. Splat calculator figured about 195 km/h. Oh god, and I was having such a good time. I worked for Fish window cleaning but did side gigs on high rises. I once scaled in front of Alice Cooper during a broadcast. Also, I met Dave Mustaine and Jenna Jameson the same week while cleaning their residential windows but didn't talk to either. Was flashed by a group of women while working near the Arizona State University campus on Mill Ave. I don't live there anymore so I could be wrong on the street name. Co-workers have said they caught people fricking randomly or random BJs or being offered sex by old lonely housewives but I was never propositioned. A bunch of random dudes walking around their apartments naked and a lot of crazy people that went batshit crazy when I touched their windows even if we were told to by their property managers. Years ago I was washing windows on a Chicago condominium in the Gold Coast on a 40 feet long stage. We were instructed not to work past 5 PM due to residents' privacy. Fine, but it was 4:30 PM. My partner and I wanted to squeeze in one more drop, but we'd have to work fast. We approached the 23rd floor and what to my surprise did I see on the kitchen table? A young couple bare naked going at it. I recognized the female. She was the pool lifeguard. They were 5 feet away from me. It was surreal. I was shocked. I froze. She was on the bottom her legs in the air and she looked at me without any interruption and said nothing to her partner. That turned me on. Meanwhile, my window washing partner was done his half and was already moving to the next floor down. I was excited and did not want to move. The stage was slanting in an angle, everything was sliding away from me. I couldn't even talk. My partner marched toward me wondering why I did not do anything and he witnessed the fiasco himself and knocked on the window. The guy, who was nailing the female, was standing above her, turned around and without pulling out attempted to lower the blinds, reaching out with one hand but only knocked them to the ground. Heck it and continued to pound her hot body on the kitchen table. Incredible. I loved telling that story. Reposting was the guy on the other side of the glass a few times. At my office we would see the ropes come down and we would know to close the blinds while the window washers were doing their thing. One day I decided to mess with the window washers. I cleaned off the windowsill and jumped up on it with a bottle of Windex and a roll of paper towels. The guy swung into view really quick, and by the time he had slammed his suction cup to the window I was following his every movement with my bottle of Windex and paper towel. For 30 seconds we stared at one another until he finally laughed and continued down the building. Later that year I got everyone in my office, about 4 or 5 people total, to stand on their windowsills and do the same thing mimicking the guys outside. Then they got a new company to come in and clean the windows. You're a regular freaking Charlie Chaplin. I used to work at a restaurant in downtown Charlotte, NC. One day we walked out front of the restaurant and just happened to look up at one of the adjacent high-rises and saw a woman getting plowed from behind. They were up there filming a porno. Upvoted for Charlotte. My buddy cleans windows. He told he saw a dude getting fricked in the butt from assumed so with a massive black strap on. Apparently he went bright red and yelled stop while she just laughed her butt off. They've since cancelled him cleaning their windows. Classmate of mine from college had that job. He told me before a test one day that he had seen a chick pooping on a dude with a bunch of trash bags spread over the floor. Kinda forgot everything from the cram session. Window cleaner here. We were called to do the interior windows in an apartment complex. One unit was just a kink-filled wonderland. The woman that lived there dressed in all leather and a guy in a full bodysuit, like the one from American Horror Story, followed her around on his hands and knees on a leash and would bark at us. High-rise window washer here. Accidentally saw a pregnant lady in a bath. We were both equally embarrassed but her husband was furious. Best times are when you scare the crap out of whoever is inside. Good laugh for both parties. My wife was in labor for about 14 hours with our first child. Our room was on the 4th floor of the building. Around hour 13, a window cleaner worked his way down the massive windows, which were wall to wall and floor to ceiling if memory serves me correctly. My wife was spread eagle facing directly towards the window. 13 hours in, everyone, especially my wife, was so exhausted that initially we almost didn't react. He was there for about 15 minutes, which made it a different kind of weird after the initial shock. I have pictures. I am very confident he could see inside, but he played it off really cool and I still wonder to this day. Not a window washer, but I was caught by the window washer in China at the high-rise hotel I was staying at, banging the Spanish girl who worked at the hotel. She was the Entourage hotel employee as she spoke like 5 languages. He kinda just slowly cleaned the window while watching. Very awkward for me, but the Spanish girl did not give a frick and seemed to get off on it. I dated that girl for a few months. Great times. My nephew had a stay at a tall London hospital. The room was fantastic and came with a balcony. I was stood there with my phone on Google Maps telling him what the various buildings were etc and explaining what features on the buildings were for in Victorian times. So as I'm pointing at various things, I noticed that the room directly in front of the balcony had a young couple getting it on right next to the window. He was going down on her and she was laid spread out on the bed. She had a fantastic body on her BTW. Needless to say, I quickly began pointing out buildings on the other side before he noticed. LOL. Not a window washer myself, but I saw on my cat cam the 2 blokes playing through the window with my cat. I think my cat must have thought it was like Christmas, cause he goes mental at birds through the window, so 2 humans would have blown his mind. In college, we could see across from one dorm building to another, and this girl would always get changed with the lights on and blinds up. Nice boobs. I'm a former window washer. I haven't seen anything cool. I've been tipped wine after cleaning windows at a vineyard, though. For anyone who has ever had an IUD, you know placement isn't the most pleasant process in the world. A couple summers ago, when I was getting mine replaced, I was in building with big glass windows, and it just so happened that during the exact moment my feet were in the stirrups and my gynecologist was actively swapping the new for the old, I stopped yelling long enough to look beyond my knees to see a window washer with a perfect view. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.